Hey everyone, Jeremy here. It's Wednesday night, not Tuesday, and we're going to create some art. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, sorry about yesterday. I had intended to create a buffalo or bison, sorry, a bison painting in coffee, but I wasn't really prepared, and then something else came up, and I was like, I'll just push it till Wednesday. I've done a couple of streams on Wednesdays. You guys seem to be okay with that. Hopefully people come in and chat with me, even though it's a different night. I'll be back on schedule on Friday. Anyway, so what are we working on tonight? People have been loving these coffee paintings, so I was going to add another one to my collection. This time I'm doing a bison painting. I made the mistake of calling it a buffalo before when I was drawing a picture of a bison. I don't really know what the difference is, but I got a lot of feedback from you guys saying, no, that's a bison. It's not a buffalo. So I'm just going to call it a bison. If you think it looks like a buffalo, that's cool too. I think this is going to be a little bit challenging because, coffee is like a big old mess. If you ever look at a bison's face, it's just kind of all brown anyway. But we'll see how it goes. So let me jump into, yeah. So as you can see, I kind of sketched out where I think the buffaloes, bison, where the bison's going to go. There is like a lot of coffee area here, so I think I have to be a little bit strategic about this and go from there. Last stream I had some technical difficulties as well. Hopefully those are cleared up, but if not, I do apologize. We just make do around here, shoestring budget. I see Rome is in the house. Okay, Larry. Cool. All right, let's chat away. So I think my strategy here is usually I start with the dark areas first, but because a lot of this bison is going to be dark, I'm going to try to do some of the light areas just so that I don't forget where those are, if that makes sense. I'm going to kind of rush through that because I do want to kind of get into the dark areas so that those dark areas can start to dry. But yeah, people are loving these. Hey, kids in the house, cool. Um, People are loving these coffee. I've been doing drawings and paintings and stuff like that for about a year now, and I haven't gotten the same kind of feedback about anything else I've worked on except for this coffee stuff. Apparently, people like coffee. Go figure. Um, but that owl painting that I just did. So the story behind that is the coffee shop that I want to hang these up in. Their logo is actually of an owl, right? So I was like, well, I definitely have to do an owl. And I did that, and then sure enough, somebody reached out to me like, "Hey, can I have that owl picture?" And I'm like, "Oh man, now I gotta do another owl." So you guys keep snatching these up, I'll keep making them, but I apparently I have to do another owl. And then my stag picture, um, my my niece's husband, so I guess my nephew-in-law. I don't know how that works out. But anyway, my niece's husband wanted that one. So, I didn't give him a Christmas gift. So that's his. So I got to draw another or paint another deer picture at some point. But I don't know. I've got the paper, I've got the coffee. So I'll just keep cranking these out. They're fun to do. Hopefully you guys enjoy watching them. I try to keep it fresh here and not do the same thing every day. But I started adding up. These coffee paintings all in with all the detail and everything take up to 5 hours to do. And I want to do 30 of them total. So you do the math, that's a lot of time. So hopefully you guys don't mind me putting in some of these while on the live stream just to kind of knock out those hours. But yeah, my goal is to have 30 of these eventually. And I am taking pictures of them. So even the ones I'm giving away, I'm keeping like the original. I'm keeping a digital copy of the original so that I can make copies or prints or whatever. Put them on coffee mugs. I think that'd be cool. So they're not disappearing, even though they're finding homes. I shouldn't complain about them finding homes. That's the intent, You don't want your art just sitting in a drawer. You want it hanging up. So no complaints. Unless you guys get bored of me doing coffee pictures, and then I'm like, oh well, okay, I'll just do these on the side. But I don't think you guys get bored. I think you guys just come in here to hang out with me, which is cool because that's all I'm here for. I'm here to hang out with you guys. I can paint these pictures on my own. I like hanging out with you guys. I like to hear about your week and what you guys are up to and things like that. Honestly, I really rely on you guys. Oh, thanks, Ron. I appreciate that. Yeah, so actually, while you guys are in here, what do you guys think? Do you like Wednesdays better? Or do you like Tuesdays? Because I'm open to either. So I've only been doing the Tuesday ones because I've kind of like been doing that forever. If you guys prefer a different day of the week, if that's more convenient to you guys, it's all the same to me. I like the Friday ones. Um, But even on Fridays, I sometimes there's something going on that I might be like, I don't know. Like they have these gallery hops around here on Fridays, and whenever those are happening, those happen like once a month. I kind of want to go to those, but then I don't know. I really enjoy doing the live stream, so it's like between the two, between having a life and doing a live stream, I'd rather do the live stream to be honest. These are fun, but I'm open on what day of the week I do. So you guys let me know. Maybe I'll put a poll up or something. Which days do most of you guys prefer? I like these polls. Oh, another project I was going to do tonight is I was going to prepare. What was the limit? I think it was four different things that I could do. Like I already have reference photos. I'm prepared to do it. I've got all the supplies out and everything like that. I was going to come up with four different things I could do and let you guys pick which one I do actually do. So I do think I'm going to do that in the future. I think that'll be fun. Let you guys pick what I work on. Watercolor Wednesdays. Oh, you know what? I should do that. I should do theme things. So Wednesday would be Watercolor Wednesday. Friday would be free for all. Like it could be whatever. What about a Monday? What would that be? Messy Mondays? I like it. Tuesdays would be try harder Tuesdays. I'm in the East Coast. It's up to you guys if you want to say where you're at. I know some of you guys are probably not East Coast. I don't live on the coast, but I'm in the Eastern time zone. I know some of you guys might be a little further out west, but to me it's 8 o'clock, if that helps. And there's been people who have asked for earlier streams, mostly young people. I don't know, they have to go to school the next day or something like that. So I am thinking about maybe doing it a little bit earlier, but I don't want to conflict with people's. This is why I really need to do a poll or two polls. One is for days of the week, and then another one for like time of day. Because I'm pretty flexible, but I know that some people are eating dinner. I don't know what you guys do, but whatever you guys do, I don't want to interrupt you guys. These are supposed to be low key and have fun. Or if you guys like to listen to me and it bores you to sleep and you want to listen to me late at night and like 2 in the morning or something so that you guys can get better sleep, hey, I'm your guy. I'll do that for you. It does not affect me. It might confuse the dogs. The dogs have a pretty well established internal clock. Oh, Pacific, cool. Oh yeah, I guess it would be 5 o'clock. Neat. I have been to California twice. One to LA and one out to San Francisco, and I just love it out there. It's beautiful. The cost of living is through the roof these days. But so, do you pay with decaf? Sapien, I could, but I wouldn't. I have a fundamental philosophical disagreement with decaf, and that I don't know why decaf exists. It doesn't make any sense. I guess if you just like the taste of coffee or something, um, I can see maybe the point of decaf, but then it's kind of like non-alcoholic beer. It's like, really, what's the point? But if you like decaf, hey, maybe you have some health condition where you have to drink decaf. I'm not going to knock it too much. It's just not for me. So this is all caffeinated. It is instant coffee because I find that's easier. I have tried to paint with espresso, and I think that works. It's just you have to build up so many layers, so it's not really practical. Um, you get very little actual color out of it. So you either I don't know, just have to spend forever kind of building up layers, or um, I mean, you can't really get stronger than espresso, so I don't know how you would get more um, pigment out of it. But yeah, like if you ever leave a coffee cup out for a couple of days or something instead of cleaning it. Oh, by the way, I'm drinking a martini tonight. So we are trying different things, you know. We're not stuck in a rut. We're trying different things. I'm drinking a martini instead of my bourbon. Um, yeah, so if you ever leave a coffee cup out, forget to clean it, like maybe you left it at the office or something, you come back the next day and it has that patina on it. That's basically what you'd be painting with if you were using like non-instant coffee. The instant coffee dissolves really well and mixes well with the water, so that's why I use it. Um, I haven't met any purists out there who's complained about the instant coffee. I can see somebody like maybe, I don't know, getting all uppity about it and being like, "Well, that's not proper coffee." But I haven't met anybody like that yet. Yeah, there's some olives. This is my own personal olive jar. Good observation there, Sapient. I can't hide my susness. Yeah. Um, so everybody drinks martinis different, but I'm the type of guy who looks up the proper way to do things, and I honestly believe there's a couple of things that every man should know, right? And I am a man, so I felt like I'm obligated to learn these things. One is, I believe I may have mentioned this before, but I say it a lot because I believe these things are true. I believe that every man should know how to light a fire, right? You ever stranded somewhere, you go camping, something like that. You should be able to start a fire. Now, I'm not talking about rubbing two sticks together or anything like that. Nothing like on Castaway or whatever. But there's an art to building a fire that, people who don't do camping, they don't really know. Like you have to kind of build a nice base for it and then make sure there's enough airflow. You need to know the difference between like kindling and tinder and fuel and all that stuff. I believe every man should know that. It's just part of the entry process to being a man, right? I'm not saying you're not a man if you don't know these things, but you owe it to yourself to learn these things. The other one is there's a couple of them. These are my rules to live by as a man. I believe that every man should know how to change a tire. Okay. You'd be surprised at how many guys do not know how to change a tire just because they've never had to deal with it. But at some point in your life, you're either going to be stranded by the side of the road with a flat tire, or you're going to know somebody who is, and you should probably help that person out, right? So you should know how to change a tire. If you're a teenager and you're just getting into driving, one of the first things you should learn is how to change a tire. I believe that, right? Um, and then this one's kind of goofy, but I believe it's true. Every man should know how to roll their sleeves, right? If you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, you should know how to roll them up. And it's not just roll them up, right? That sloppy way that most of us guys do it. There's a proper way where you actually fold it over and it looks nice. And I think that matters, right? You should know how to roll a tie. Roll a sleeve. And you should also know how to tie a tie as well. That's not really high on my list because most guys do know how to tie a tie, and some of these other ones are like things that they don't know. Um, but yeah, all right. So anyway, that was a long introduction into every man should know how to make a martini. Actually, every man, whether you drink or not, you should know how to make some of these common drinks. Just because you find yourself in social situations where even if you're not drinking, maybe you're the bartender, or maybe you're just recommending it to somebody else. Everybody should be able to know how to order a drink as well. Like these are like little things that might slip through the cracks, right? Some of them are pretty obvious, but I live by them. So you should know how to make two drinks in particular, and there's probably others, but the two that I feel strongly about is a classic martini, and you should also know how to make an old fashioned. Right? These are two basic drinks, and then there's also easier drinks like a mule. I drink a lot of mules. It's just basically bourbon. It could be whiskey with ginger ale. I think that's important for people to know, but certainly the old fashioned and the martini. So I researched how to make a proper martini, and I know some people swear by vodka, but I'm a classic martini guy, so I'm drinking gin. which is not everybody's cup of tea. Some people don't like the taste of gin, and I know why. It's kind of got like a medicine-y taste to it, so it's not for everybody. But I do think that you should be able to at least make a vodka martini if that's your thing. But it's basically the same thing. It's like, I don't know, 3 ounces of a gin or vodka, like a half an ounce of dried vermouth, and then some olives. And then depending on the amount of olives, it becomes either dirty or not dirty martini. I like the taste of olives, so I just throw a bunch of olives in the glass. Now, you can also serve it different ways. I know this is nerdy stuff. You can you can have it in a traditional olive glass, which is up and an yeah, yeah. So you splash in the vermouth, and then depending on how much vermouth you put in there, it becomes either a dry martini or a not dry martini. I don't know if you actually call it wet martini, but yeah. Hey, Total, how's it going? But yeah, vermouth. Otherwise, if you just have like gin or you just have vodka, it's not a martini. You have to have the vermouth, or else it's not a cocktail. Like a cocktail is actually mixing different drinks, different um, liquids together. So. Um, these are things I didn't know. I had to look up this stuff in order to be a proper man, right? Like these are things you have to know as a man. Um, so I did the research. I learned how to roll my sleeves. I learned how to. Well, I already knew how to change a tire. I already knew how to like light a fire and stuff like that. But I learned to be a proper man, and part of that is making a martini. So yeah, I can make a martini in my sleep now. I can make an old fashioned. An old fashioned is a cube of sugar, some bitters, um, uh, either ice or a splash of water, your bourbon, and you can make it with whiskey as well. And then the garnishments on that are usually orange, sometimes a cherry, doesn't have to be, depending on your taste, but almost always an orange. So yeah, little things like that. But yeah, I swear by these things, especially like, I know it's lame, but how to roll your sleeves. A lot of guys don't know that. They just roll them up and stuff, and it looks terrible, and it's kind of floppy. Your sleeves end up rolling out. If you actually fold it nice, it looks nice. So I like to say, learn these things and impress your friends. So in case you guys are wondering what we're doing on this buffalo, I'm trying to knock in the lighter areas before I do the dark, just because there's going to be like a lot of dark down here in his beard and his neck. But yeah, and then, I think that I think I'm going to add one. I think everybody should be able to draw at least a little. Like it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do think that a lot of times you are required to describe something visually. And even if you're doing it with like stick figures or simple shapes or something like that, you should learn how to do it. And I think that kind of applies to every human being, not necessarily like men and women can do that as well. I think that everybody should be able to describe something visually with pull out a napkin or something and be able to draw that. It's not rocket science. You can do that. Okay, Larry, I get that reference. I know where you got that from. Yeah. So now, the proper way to make a martini is like the classic way is that you mix all these ingredients with one olive. You only put the one olive in there while you're mixing it, and then you can add as many olives as you want as a garnishment. I just like olives, so I just pile them in there. I do like olives. I like pickles too, and I like I like all these I guess fermented things. Speaking of fermented things, I like kimchi. You guys ever hear of that? Korean cabbage? That stuff's good. I like all those things. But you guys came here to learn about art, not different drinks and stuff. So I'll shut up about it. But yeah, for the coffee, it's definitely the instant coffee, just because it works better. I do think, and maybe I'll show the results of that, like in a little standalone video sometime, um, where you can actually use non-instant coffee, but it's not gonna like I don't know. I had a coffee cup around here somewhere where I was doing an experiment. You can do it. You can do it. You can build up the pigments, and I guess they call them pigments or whatever they're called. Um, I like jarred things. I do. I like jarred stories. There we go. I would love to read that story, to be honest. I'd like to know what's in that jar. All right, this is probably good enough where I can do some of the other messier parts. This is the fun stuff, to be honest. So the way I do the darker areas, I get them started with just like a big old mess. So I've got this thicker brush here. Let's see. Let's see if I can show it without spilling anything on the page. All right, the thicker brush, I kind of load it up with some pre-made coffee, and then I go looking for the dark areas. So there's like dark areas under his chin. There's going to be some dark areas in his neck, and I'm not being very careful with this. I like it to be messy, just because it surprises me somehow sometimes how these things go. Like I have worked on a number of these pieces so far. I want to say I don't know, like five or six or something like that. And each time, some of the effects that come out of it are kind of surprising. So I like to just make a mess and see where it goes, and then kind of tidy it up and post. Like um, I'll come back and rework an area or something like that after the fact. But definitely to get it started, I don't care where this stuff goes. It can go wherever. I don't like that it warps the paper, but that is what it is, and it's just that's not exclusive to coffee. I mean that happens with watercolor as well. Hey Beaks, hey, how's it going? Oh, cool. Hey, thanks a lot, man. All right, so this is the fun part. This is where I let gravity do the work. You guys have seen this before. I want to get these like little drips and stuff because I think that looks cool. And I'm not like I just let them go wherever, and I'll probably put more drips in as we go along. But I definitely want to get those started. Um, just because I think that's a neat effect. That, along with the splatters, are really what kind of cements the style of these pictures. And you don't have to do that to do a coffee painting. You can do something more precise. But honestly, I think I mean, I hate to say it, that's what people want. People want to see those cool effects and stuff. So do yourself a favor and just put them in. Yeah, I appreciate that, Beaks. I'm very happy with that one. I've got a couple other ones where I really try to precisely capture either the light or the shadow, just using traditional pencil techniques and stuff. And I'm very proud of those. And I think the major reason why I am is because I didn't draw that way when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I didn't pay a lot of attention to making shadows look good and lights look good and stuff like that. That's something kind of new to me. Um, and I think it just elevates your art, makes your art do things um, that look really super realistic. So I appreciate you noticing that. Hey, Hater, how's it going, man? Yeah, so yesterday, I am sorry about that. So if you ever notice that I'm not on the like doing the live stream, check the community tab because that's where I post notices if I'm not going to be able to make it. And yesterday I wasn't prepared. I didn't want to like just do a phone in piece of art for you guys. I wanted to do, like actually do a decent piece of and I wasn't prepared. I wasn't really feeling it, and then something else came up, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna call it. I was half tempted to just go live anyway and just kind of muscle through it, but it just didn't work out for me. So yeah, I post to the community tab whenever I'm not going to be live streaming on a day that you guys might expect it. And yesterday was kind of short notice, so I do apologize about that, but I'll try to do better in the future. I'll try to let you know on one stream that I'm not going to be able to do the next one. I'll try to give you guys that much advance notice. Because I do, the reason why I care is because I do appreciate you guys showing up. I know I'm not entitled to that. And, you guys coming in and watching my show and stuff, I mean, I don't deserve it. So whatever I can do to make it easier for you guys, I really appreciate it. So I am sorry I failed you guys. I will do better next time. So, on these like little areas, I let them dry for a bit, like these areas. Now, this is going to become much darker as I go along. And what I want to do is I want to kind of create this like kind of base layer for it. If you guys ever had creme brulee or one of those things, yeah, exactly, kid. You got to watch Ben rant, which is always fun. I always enjoy that. Even if I don't agree with the guy, I love to watch him like just go off the rails. Um, that's what he should rename his show to, Ben's Rants. Like, you know what really grinds my gears? That should be the title of his show. Um, yeah, so like I don't creme brulee comes to mind, but any of those kind of dishes where they kind of like take the flamethrower to it and it kind of like browns the top and makes it crusty. That's kind of what happens when the coffee dries on watercolor paper. It kind of forms this crusty thing. And the way you can get darks out of the coffee on the paper is to let it dry and then kind of build up layers on top of it to where those final pieces that you guys really like, the details and stuff like that, they're almost like this kind of syrupy, crusty. They've got some texture to them. It's kind of neat. But they're layers on top of this crusty layer that you're laying down first. So that's the first step, is to kind of build this base layer that you're building off of. It's a little bit like watercolor, but watercolor more absorbs into the paper, at least in my view. This first stain does, but the layers you put on top of it, they don't get absorbed as into the paper as watercolor do, which is a good thing because it allows you to build up those dark areas and put in those detail layers that people like. Which in this case, this bison that I'm painting, those details are going to definitely matter because the whole thing's brown, right? So like if I didn't put those in there, it's just a bunch of shades of brown, and you can maybe make out a buffalo face, but it's not going to be the same. Now, I don't like how this is kind of curved, so I might tinker with that a little bit later on, kind of dress those up, but I don't know how dark this is going to dry, so it may be fine. I will worry about that later, but yeah, I'm not liking that, but we'll clean it up a little bit later. So, oh, thanks, man. You religiously wait for my streams. That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome yesterday, but it's awesome today. Um, I oh, you were waiting. Oh man, that's terrible that you were waiting and fell asleep. I mean, usually like people don't fall asleep until after I start talking. But yeah. I mean, I want it to be routine, right? So like I want you guys to be able to look forward to it, not even wonder if I'm going to be on or not. I want it to be on a certain day. But beyond that, it's kind of up to you guys what days you want and things like that. I'm happy to accommodate. Hey, Mama Q. Yeah. So I'm sorry about yesterday. Usually I do like to let you know, like if I have a trip planned or I'm not going to be available, I like to let you guys know well in advance, but just sometimes I can't make it. Thank you for sharing your art with us. Yeah, I like sharing art with you guys. I like it because you guys appreciate it. Like if you guys were hating on all my art, I don't know if I would like it as much, but you guys are really good. Like if every like, could you imagine every stream coming in and like just having to deal with an audience that's like, oh, what kind of crap are you making this week, Jeremy? I mean, I think if you guys said that, like it would probably be in a joking way. I would hope so and stuff, and I would take it as a joke. But you guys don't do that, so I wouldn't know. But I don't know. Early days back in the day when I was creating art, some of these things did not turn out well. I am not afraid to admit it. I've been going back. This is another project so I'm doing the coffee paintings because that's kind of like my focus right now because I'm trying to get a collection of these things going where they're either going in that coffee shop or I'm going to go to an art show. I don't know what I'm doing this year, but I'm going to do one of those two things. That's my goal for the year. Um, but in the meantime, I don't want to just do coffee art. I want to kind of vary it up a little bit. So I've been thinking of other things I can do. And one of them is going back and looking at pictures I did last year, like maybe January of last year or February of last year. They're not all that great. Some of them are terrible. So I was thinking about maybe going back and revisiting some of those and just being like, oh, okay, so that was then. Can I do better now? And then try to recreate the piece and see if I can do better. One that comes to mind is one of my earliest pieces was of Baby Yoda slash Grogu. And I liked how it turned out, but it's not really the kind of style or like I did in colored pencil, but I didn't even like spend a lot of time like really mixing that color pencil in and stuff. I would like to redo Grogu. Redo Grogu. That's what I'll name the stream. Redo Grogu. And then I don't know. I've done a couple of Wednesday Addams pictures, which Wednesday Addams was a lot bigger this time last year than it is now. They're supposed to be making a season two, so I'm looking forward to that. I just like Jenna Ortega. I think, especially to draw, like I think she's got these symmetrical features that are really good to draw. So I've done a couple of pictures of her pretty early. I am proud of one of them. It's actually one of my more popular videos where I did a portrait of her in charcoal. I think that one turned out all right, but some of the perspective or some of the proportions are off. I'd like to take another crack at that one. Anyone else see a face of a man yelling with the beard facing Jeremy's hand? It does. At this point, it is open to interpretation. I can tell you it will be a buffalo or a bison. Sorry, I gotta stop screwing that up. It will be a bison. But yeah, at this point, it's open to interpretation. Whatever you guys think. Some of the stuff is going to be a little tough on detail. Like, I think the eye will stand out pretty clearly, but one of the challenges I think is going to be doing his mats of fur. So like this is like the kind of fur that like if you don't shower or wash your hair, you will eventually get. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that. I think it's just going to be various shades. Oh, that's an interesting thing. I didn't do a live stream of the owl, but there were some interesting observations I wish I had shared there. Is doing feathers in this coffee stuff is actually a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. Um, yeah. So again, I've mentioned how hard it is to get this stuff to be dark until after it kind of dries and gives you this kind of like surface area to work off of. But then, if you've got a small liner brush, you can really get that syrupy stuff that I was talking about, makes a really dark coffee. Um, but getting like a larger brush to pick up that much darkness, it was a lot more difficult, but that's what I needed to do those feathers. So that was a bit of a challenge, but I think that turned out all right. Obviously, somebody liked it because they really like owls, and they're like, "Hey, give me that picture," and I'm like, "Okay, all right, I'm not gonna argue with that if you love it that much." But yeah, it's kind of funny. So I am trying to build up a collection, but like these pictures are kind of disappearing as I make them. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to complete my collection because people snatching these pictures up, which is cool, I guess. I mean, that's what you want, right? People to be that engaged with it. But I am taking pictures of them, so hopefully at least I'll be able to like do something with like prints or something like that. I really have no idea. I'm not really in the business of selling art, so I don't really know how that works. But I will figure things out. I just want to. So there's like benchmarks that have nothing to do with making money. I want to do these things so I feel like a real artist. So I want my pictures hanging up on a wall somewhere, whether they sell or not. I want to go to an art show so that I can say I did that. It doesn't matter if I lose money at the art show. I don't want to lose money at the art show, but um, I just want that experience. I want to pretend to be a real artist. That would be awesome. Hater says, your art is absolutely amazing. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Oh, wow, that's a hell of a compliment. I appreciate that. And when you draw such incredible things on live stream, it's just mind blowing. I can't think of anything better than that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mama Q, the Harry Potter music actually it was kind of for you because I knew that you liked Harry Potter. I had a couple of choices, and then I'm like, well, owls are in Harry Potter, so let me go with that. And I thought maybe you might notice that. That's kind of cool. Um, Mama Q, I laughed at your coffee humor. There's a lot of coffee humor. A lot of coffee humor. Hey, Hoolie's in the house. Hey, Hoolie. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday night. It is hump day. Usually I come in earlier in the week and I'm hoping you guys have a good week. Now you're kind of in the thick of it. There ain't no going back now. Your week is what it is. So at this point, you're either like, well, I'm having a good week, or man, I can't wait until Friday when this week is over. Because it is hump day. Weeks are going by so quick these days. I don't know if you guys are having that experience, but I'm having this weird experience where it's almost February. I don't know what happened in January. I have been a whole lot more busier than a guy in my, you know, a guy like me should. I just have too much on my plate. But yeah, January just kind of blew by, which I guess is good. You know, you want your winter months to blow by and you want it to be spring and you want the sun out and all of that stuff. Hey, Huli. Hey, I'm having a martini tonight, Huli. I'm changing it up a little bit. I was going to put it in the tall glass, but I'm like, no, I'm going to end up spilling that. So I put it in a tumbler. Time is a wreck. I agree. Yep. Time is nuts. Um, we all kind of like lived through COVID lockdowns and stuff like that. I'm sure some of us had different experiences than others. That COVID year, because I didn't get COVID, like I'm blessed that I didn't get COVID. But to me, it was just this year of everything just kind of slowing down, and it kind of gave me some time to reflect and kind of like think about life and where I wanted to go in life. I should have started my life and my channel sooner because that's the frame of mind I was in. The frame of mind I brought into 2023 when I started my stream is kind of the the frame of mind I had in 2020 when basically the world shut down for a while. Um, Again, I do recognize everybody's experience was different, so hopefully you guys had a safe COVID season. I don't know, like uh, nothing serious happened, hopefully. But for me, it's just like a lot of quiet. Like I was working at like a normal office job at the time, and they sent us all home, and I found myself with like I don't know, I could watch Netflix while working, and um, I could go to the park and for a walk during lunch, and all these different things that I just wasn't used to really because I'm a kind of a workaholic in my day job and everything like that. I never really took time for it. So I don't know. You hear about different people experiencing it a different way. That's how I experienced it. I saw it as a kind of a window into a life that I should be living, and that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to end up slowing everything down. You know, I still feel that way. I really do. Like people have been talking to me about digital art lately, and why don't you do digital art? I think you'll do really great at digital art. I'm kind of rejecting that, kind of like philosophically. Um, I like I like this old school kind of way of doing things. It works out for me because my frame of mind is like life goes by way too quick. You gotta slow it down. You just gotta find some way to slow it down so that you can not really enjoy it more, just experience it more. Like if it's going by too quick, you're not going to experience it. Yeah, that's kind of and look, I don't feel like I'm telling you guys stuff you don't know. I feel like everybody kind of feels this subconsciously that the world is just spinning too fast. Um, I don't know. Maybe some of you guys don't feel that way, but I certainly do. I feel like the world itself is spinning too fast, and you just got to kind of slow it down. That's what these art sessions do for me. They just kind of slow it down. It's got some percolating too. You guys got the best coffee puns. Jeremy, recognize and embrace your artistic abilities by acknowledging that you possess a unique talent within you. It is essential to understand that you are an artist, a real God-gifted one. I appreciate that, Hater. You've got the best compliments. Thank you. Um, what you guys say doesn't fall on deaf ears. I do think of myself more of an artist than I used to. That imposter syndrome where you do something even though you're not good at it, and like the fake it till you make it type deal. I feel like that's passed largely where I feel like, okay, I can create something. I mean, there are certain experiences that maybe an artist might have that I haven't experienced yet. Um, I haven't created anything where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I created that. I haven't reached that point yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Um, the stereotypical artist who's just like, I don't know, just so anxious until something beautiful comes out of his canvas or whatever. I haven't experienced any of that. I don't feel like I've created any works that would warrant that kind of mystical experience where you're like, oh, that's amazing. Um, but I'll get there. That kind of art probably requires more time than I've got. Like, I would love to have the time to put 40 hours into one painting or something like that. Um, I used to say that I don't think I have the patience and discipline for that, but I think I could pull that off. I think I could spend 40 hours on a painting if I had 40 hours to give. I don't know what I would paint. Like, um, it's it's easier and more comfortable for me to do these like kind of studies of an animal. Like this is like the face of a buffalo. Um, I haven't done like a full size buffalo where I'm putting a buffalo in like a situation or something. That kind of stuff would be fun to explore. Maybe I'd do something like that. Um, I don't know. I don't have 40 hours to devote to it, so I haven't put a lot of thought to it. But maybe someday. I'll tell you what I'd like to do. Like you can tell I had a lot of coffee before coming on the stream because I'm very animated. Um, I'm a little bit more excited than usually. Maybe it's because it's Wednesday. I don't know. Um, but I'll tell you what I'd love to do. I would love to tackle like a mural on the side of a building. To me, that would be awesome. Like if I ever do that, then that's kind of like, okay, I've done everything I could possibly want to do. I'm gonna pack it up. Um, a mural like that large of a painting, that would be awesome. Again, I have no idea what I would paint, but that would be cool. Because like that's not just painting. That's like you have to plan that stuff out. You have to figure out how you would kind of map it all out so that everything has the right proportions. Probably you would start with like some sort of drawing and you would map that to a grid that you would end up putting on the building. Um, you would need all your supplies. I'd have to look into like how you protect it, like how do you protect that from graffiti? Yeah, the American Bison is awesome. Oh, cool! You haven't heard they're in Florida. So I never saw any of these growing up, and now it seems like they're everywhere. So I don't know if they were endangered and they're repopulating the species or something, but they're everywhere now. Um, Here in Kentucky, we have them. I think the first time I saw them was actually a couple of years ago when I went out to New Mexico. They're all over the place out there. As soon as you hit Kansas, like you see them by the side of the road and everything. But I am, but I started seeing them more here in Kentucky at various farms. I don't know if it's just like this plan thing where they're trying to repopulate them, but your friend who is an artist watched the live stream with you the other day and was amazed by your talent. He mentioned that he could never imagine creating portraits using coffee as a medium. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. You should tell him to, or him or her to give it a shot. I'm not. I didn't invent painting with coffee. It's been around for a while. I think people. I think it really became kind of probably people have been painting with coffee ever since coffee existed, but um, it became really popular maybe like in 2010. That's when I first started seeing it, but I think you can kind of elevate it. Like back then, people were just doing like simple pictures or whatever. I think this kind of art with it, where you're treating it as an actual medium to do fine art, um, that kind of elevates it a bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's rocket science. I think that anybody can do this, especially if you're already used to working with watercolor or something like that. All right, so I'm going to try to get in some of these dark details around the eye, just so that there's something to look at here. This is really where you start. Is you start with this underpainting, and maybe one of these days I'll do that ahead of time so that you guys can watch more of some of the detailing, which I think is more interesting. You do kind of want to let it dry a bit, so that um, when you're dealing with the detailing, you want it to be like super dark, right? And if it's not dry yet, it's going to kind of blend in, you know, this isn't as dark as I want it to be. And then the other thing is like, if it's still wet, it's just going to kind of like blur for these detailed areas. And you kind of have to have like some precision there. I'm actually proud of how stable my hand is. Like usually, like my hand's shaking all over the place. Actually, maybe I'm getting better at that. Yeah. The cure for shaky hand drinking and stuff is to like create art. I think I get shaky hands more from drinking coffee, to believe it or not. Um, they're not shaky, like they don't like shake all the time. I think I actually have a pretty steady hand, but to me, it feels like, tasks like this where I'm trying to create a straight line, it's it's a little bit more difficult. But anyway, so you want these darker areas to kind of live on top of the dried areas. Really, Mama said bye, son. I don't know what you're saying there. Mama said bye, son. Oh, Mama Q left. Okay. Just the way, for some reason, I have to read that as Mama said bye, son. Um, there's a guy who left me a comment the other day asking what time my live stream went on. Apparently, he's been wanting to watch my live streams and always seems to miss it. Luke, if you're lurking and you're just hanging out or whatever, I wanted to welcome you to the show because I know he's been really trying to like make his schedule work so that he can watch them live. But just want to give a shout out to Luke does art, Luke art. I don't remember his channel, but you might see him in like some of the comments sometimes and stuff. He's a kid who does like drawings and stuff like or painting, sorry. And some of them are like really good. So I wanted to like highlight that guy just because he's been trying so hard to get into to watch the live streams. And it's like and I get it, like especially for younger folks, I do kind of stream a little bit late. So I do want to at some point, maybe this summer, kind of like do multiple streams, like some earlier in the day. We'll see how that goes. But I'm aware that I do kind of stream a little bit late for some of you guys, so I apologize for that. But he seemed like he really wanted to get in. So Luke, in the future, if you're watching this, I did give you a shout out. So go check out Luke's channel if I can remember what the channel is. I think it's like Luke does art or something like that. He's in one of the recent comments on one of the shorts. So if you guys feel inclined to go look it up, maybe I'll look it up later. Yeah, this Wednesday thing, it's not bad. I kind of like the Tuesday thing a little bit though. I'll probably go back to Tuesday next week. So as you can see, the process is that like, and it's time consuming. Some of these pictures, I've been trying to keep track of them. Some of them, 2 hours, you got the basics of it. But usually to get all the details in, it's going to be at least 3 hours. But some of these more involved ones, they've kind of gone up to like 5 hours. So that's how long. Now, of course, I don't make you guys watch that. I get it to a point where it's good enough, and then I add the details later. And that's kind of why I was thinking maybe I should kind of do this early work and then come in and live stream the detailing. I think that would be kind of cool for the next one. I don't know the next one I'll do. Probably not this Friday. This Friday I'll probably do something not copy painting. Again, I want to keep it varied up, but yeah. And then, all right, so here's an example of what I'm talking about. I want to make this darker, right? But if I come in here and it's still wet, all it's doing is kind of seeping into that under layer and it's not doing what I want. So I have to let that dry before I come back and make them darker, even though I kind of want to do it now. Underachiever? Larry, come on. I don't have any immediate plans to go to London. It's on my bucket list, but I probably won't get to it this year. But it's not outside the range of possibility. Uh, Probably when I go to London, it would be part of like a more extended trip. I've got some nieces and nephews who live in Sweden, so I would be kind of maybe going through London on the way there, which I think would be an excellent trip. That would be awesome. But I don't know when I want to do that. If my nieces and nephews are watching, I'm going to come and visit. I promise. I had the opportunity to go last year and I wasn't able to, so I kind of owe it to them to go and visit. But yeah, Hater, that would be great. Stop in, uh, say hi to you. There's a couple of other people in here from the UK that I've met that are super cool. Um, Dave doesn't get a chance. Just Dave doesn't get a chance to comment as much. I think the hours that I stream are kind of like a little weird for him. He pops in every now and then, um, but I'd like to meet him too. He's kind of cool. He's okay. He's all right. No, he's super cool. So I'd like to visit him as well. Oh yeah, Luke does art. Thank you, Huli. That's fine. That I'm sure that's it. Yeah. I don't know. He's just like he just seems like a nice guy, and you know it's been multiple times that he's commented like, "When you doing your live stream? I really want to watch it live and everything," and it just doesn't seem to work out. So I always feel bad for the guy. So if you guys, you know, if you have some free time and you want to check out like an up and coming young artist who's making his way in the world, pretty cool stuff. Go and check it out. And I really want to start. If any of you guys are artists and you come in here, I definitely want to like or have a channel of any type. I mean, I don't care. You could be selling microwaves. I don't care. I'll give you a shout out. Um, Other people do it on other channels, and I kind of want to get in that habit. I don't have the I don't know the sometimes the viewers have channels, sometimes they don't. But if you ever do, bring it to my attention. I'll give you a shout out and tell people to go your way. The other thing is there's a really cool channel, super nice guy. His name is Sticky Art, and he sent people here on like a raid one time, and well, two times actually. And I like that habit. So like if I ever end up with a lot of viewers or something, what he does is at the end of his stream, he goes and checks and sees if anybody else is doing like a live art thing, and if so, you know, he recommends people to go out there and you know kind of just show support for the art community. I like that kind of paying it forward stuff. I always forget to, but it's on my mind because people have been nice enough to send people my way, so I like to pay it forward like that if I can. We're kind of getting a face here. It's starting to come together. I think I think I'm gonna do a bit of his nose so that that stands out. I don't expect this to be like all the values that it really needs. And for those of you guys who, um, you know, you just watch this show and you're not really into art, you don't look into it and stuff. Whenever I say values, I mean like the tonal values. So like the dark versus the light areas, right? So Beeks was in here earlier and he mentioned you know, the picture that I did on black paper with the white highlighting the girl's face. Those are light values. And then the dark values are actually the paper itself. So whenever I talk about values, I'm usually talking about those type of tonal qualities. Again, I didn't go to art school, so I'm not 100% sure I've got my terms right, but I think I'm right on that. And and this the reason I bring it up is like, you know, I'm never going to get all the value into this, and I don't mean money value. I mean these tonal qualities, all the values into this picture in 2 hours. I don't think that that's possible, but I want to get enough of it so that you guys see where it's going. And the process that I've been kind of doing lately, and I think it works out, is that, you know, you put not quite the full value in, you kind of half the value or something, and that's enough to show you where it's going, and then you just come back and finish it later with like more layers. So the equivalent of that would be like, you do a sketch and you put in like 50% of the value or something like that. I hate saying value because it does seem like, well, I'm putting the money value into the, no, I mean the tonal values, um, the lights and darks and so on. So like this area should have like a little bit of highlight because it's catching light. That's a light value versus this dark value, which is like the inside of the nostrils and stuff. Yeah, thanks, Julie. I appreciate you linking to that. See, that's why you're everybody's mod. Julie's the best mod out there. Guys, if you have a channel, and I don't care if you're selling microwaves or whatever, and you need a good mod, you should hire Huli. She's the best. Huli's got you back. So get some of that definition of the nose going. This side here is kind of like this little ridge here kind of comes up and wraps around, and then kind of goes into, the non-highlighted part of the nose. So that's how you start getting some definition into your picture. And again, it's so weird because when I was a kid, like, and I didn't know any better, mostly because I read comics. And you learn from what you see. So like I saw a bunch of comics, so I'm like, I'm gonna try to mimic what I see in the comics. Um, you know, I don't know if comics are really the best way to learn how to draw. They're good for like learning figures, like how the human body works, and basic shadows and stuff like that. It's certainly new comics are a lot better at this, but you know, back when I was growing up, comics weren't as good as they are now in terms of like artistic quality. Like now they're like full on graphic novels, and the art is appreciated. Back then they were just kind of like cranking them out, and it wasn't as good. Like if you ever get a chance to watch X-Men '97 on Disney, you'll see that kind of like, well, it's good enough art, versus the anime that people are creating nowadays. But anyway, so that's kind of my first exposure to drawing people and so on, and kind of my first exposure to drawing in general is copying basically comic book style. So it's a lot of line art. So as a self-taught artist who didn't go to school for all this, I never really learned how to properly shadow something, which isn't that difficult. You can just sit down and draw a circle and then try to like capture the shadows on the circle versus the highlights and stuff like that. It's the basics of any kind of like learn to draw art book or something of that nature. Um, but yeah, so like now all I do is I draw on either lights or shadows. And I think that, and even when I'm painting, I'm kind of drawing. So um, but yeah, so that sort of stuff I think is a better way to actually draw, is to like look at it as like you're painting or drawing with shadows. And if you guys looked at the let me check something real quick. Yeah, okay, cool. Um, if you look at the picture I did on Friday of the old man with pencil, um, that's exactly what it is. You don't see me drawing any line. That's kind of my point. That's what I was trying to get at. Is you don't see me drawing any lines. So I don't draw any lines to define the nose. I don't draw any lines to define the mouth. What I do is I draw shadows, right? So I put in different values to represent shapes. Um, which are represented by the shadows, and you get a pretty picture out of it. And I don't think that that picture would look as good. It's not perfect. I mean, it's just a drawing. I'm not trying to like oversell it or anything like that. But I don't think you would get something like that if you were drawing shapes or sorry, lines and stuff. It comes from drawing the shadows is what I'm getting at. I'm kind of mumbling here, but that's okay. I think you guys get what I'm saying. Draw shapes, not lines. So even here, it helps with painting as well. Like one of my concerns was like I do have a lot more experience in drawing than I do in painting. I'm still new at painting. So I was worried about how do I make that transition from drawing pictures to painting. which is really like, I mean, I enjoy this. This is great. Um, but if you're painting shapes, um, it's an easy transition. And then what I found is really interesting from that is due to painting shapes, it improves my drawing. So like when I go back and draw now, the drawings come out looking more interesting. Like whether it's that lady's face that's all lit up, I think that looks visually more interesting than if I just drew that with a bunch of lines. Yeah, it's like lights and shadows. Exactly, Rum Dog. Somebody's paying attention. Thanks, Rum Dog. Yeah, sometimes I just spout at the mouth. I don't know if anybody like. I don't even know what I'm going to say until it comes out. But I'm glad that came out in a useful way too. But yeah. So like even when I am drawing with lines, like I've done a couple of those pictures lately, and I probably should do another one soon, where I'm using one line to create an entire portrait. Those are fun. Those are my speed drawings. Um, Again, by using those lines, I'm creating density, which creates those values. So, like the dark areas in those pictures are where there's more lines kind of in a denser format. And again, I'm not drawing the lines of a nose or the lines of a mouth. I'm drawing shapes by doing scribbles where density ends up creating those values. I think if there's one piece of advice I could give anybody who's trying to improve their art, including myself, is to think about the tonal values and really get those nailed down. And even if you're not perfect at it, just 10% improvement is going to create 10% better pictures because that's really where it counts. Well, thank you, Hater. Yeah, certainly if like I'm in London and I'm only like there for a day or so, I'll definitely give you a holler. I mean, even if like I don't have to stay in your house or whatever, but like just meet up for like a beer or something like that. That'd be cool. Or pint, as you guys call it, I think. Have a pint at the pub. I can't do an English accent. You should do a live stream so I can hear your accent. I love British accents. I can't. Oh, European wines. Yeah, those are where they're at. Like imported wines here, they're great. Rum Dog says, my anatomy teacher was trying to get me to draw lines first and shadows. I was already established. She later bought a piece for me and used it to teach with. Nice. Yeah, I'm not going to say that, starting with lines is a terrible way to go about it because you do see that being taught a lot. And particularly, what's it called? That thing, the Loomis method for doing portraits and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's not all there is to it. And if you're going to do one thing good or one thing well, if you're going to do one thing well, your tonal values is where it's at. So like you get more bang for your buck if you get that right. So like if your proportions are correct, great. My proportions aren't always correct. Sometimes my portraits look like aliens. But you know what? They look like really good aliens because of that whole paying attention to the tonal values. And it's okay to exaggerate some features. So, maybe getting proportions correct isn't all there is to it. I don't know. I'm just saying that like if you're going to value something, that's a good one to value. Getting your proportions correct, that's actually a good value too. Like you want to make your picture look like the person, especially with like portraits, especially if portraits of people who aren't just random people. Like if you're just doing it to practice or something, it really doesn't matter. But if you're doing a picture of somebody and you're doing it for them, it should probably look like them. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just I really like shadows. I think that really makes a good picture. So all of the above is probably useful and correct and all that. It's just I particularly think that if you really nail the shadows, your picture's going to look cool even if it's not perfect or proportionally correct or anything like that. Even when it comes to like, colors, which I don't do colors a lot, partially because I'm scared of color, but you can make a monotone picture that's actually really cool. Jimmy has been quite the barista here lately. I've been a barista before. You want to talk about mixing drinks? I don't just know how to mix martinis and old fashions. I can tell you how to make most of the uh, most of the drinks. Like it's been a while, so I don't remember them exactly, but a lot. So let's start with a just a regular espresso. Obviously, it's just straight up espresso. If you add milk to it, it becomes a latte. If you add foam to it, it becomes a cappuccino. There's different versions of cappuccinos. Like there's a wet cappuccino, which has a little bit more milk in addition to the foam. And then there's dry lattes, which have like less milk, but a little bit of foam on the top. And then there's other drinks that people don't order as much, like an Americano. That's just coffee and water. Um, Red Eye is coffee and espresso. So yeah, I can mix those things. I could be your barista. Hey, Michael Cooper. It is very important to be. Oh, sorry. Everybody has to find their own. Yeah, I didn't read your earlier comment. First off, welcome. This might be the first time I've seen you here. Everybody has to find their own way with art. So true. But it's important to be open to new techniques. Also true. Feel, you want to try to experiment because you don't know what you like until you try it. You know, if you don't experiment with coffee, how do you know? And if I hadn't experimented with watercolor, I probably wouldn't be able to do coffee. And, the kind of stuff that I've been creating, if I hadn't first, had a really good solid foundation with being able to draw, I probably wouldn't do anything because it would just be like one big mess. Actually, let me take that back a little bit. If I hadn't experimented with charcoal messy art, which I still enjoy doing, every now and then I do it on this channel, where you just make a big mess in charcoal and you start carving out a face. I don't think I'd be as good at painting. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect at painting, but I think I would struggle with it a lot more if I hadn't first started with charcoal. Because charcoal is kind of the same way, you make a big mess. So here I've made a big mess, and now I'm carving out pieces out of it. Um, it's a little more, on the nose, like if you're doing charcoal, you're literally drawing a face out of it or some recognizable object. Anyway, all these things play well together. So Michael Cooper is exactly right. Experiment, guys. See what you like, see what you don't like. I've definitely found things that I don't like. Not too many, but like I'll try anything multiple times, but there's some things I prefer more than others. I really do enjoy doing this coffee art. I want to take some of the same techniques I do in this coffee art, the splatters, letting things leak, and try those in watercolor and just see what the difference is. But thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. I do this twice a week, for the most part. Usually I do them on Tuesdays and Fridays. I was busy yesterday, so I'm making up for it today. But yeah, it's basically this. I make a picture and I kind of talk while I'm doing it. Mostly I'm just hanging out with you guys. Like I would be creating these pictures otherwise, but it's nice to hang out with you guys. It's kind of like the relaxing part of my week. Um, just creating art, hanging out. And we mostly just talk about whatever comes to mind. Like I'm still waiting for like movie recommendations from you guys. I was wanting to go this weekend to go see was it Poor Things or something like that, which looked kind of interesting. Any of you guys see that? Is it worth the watch, or is there anything else you guys have watched recently? I really like getting like recommendations from you guys. Like I haven't had time to read a lot of books lately, but if you guys have any book recommendations, especially audiobooks, that would be awesome. I can listen to audiobooks while I'm doing other things. Or podcasts. You guys got any podcast recommendations? I'm on that. In fact, if you guys have podcast recommendations, I need to be taking notes because I'm really looking for some decent podcasts to listen to. Waking up after a restless night, battling insomnia, can't help but notice a striking resemblance between this bison and myself. Yeah, this bison's having a bad hair day. So true. So again, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do the fur here, but I think I'm just going to like kind of suggest the fur. Um, I think last week I started talking about um, some new terms that I'm going to start using where I suggest and imply. I heard somebody else say that, and I kind of adopted it of my own. And so I'm going to suggest and imply fur. So like you guys already know sort of what a bison looks like in your mind. So if I just suggest these things, your mind will fill in the blank. That's what I'm going for because I think this fur is going to be a little bit challenging. It's like the feathers on the owl that I did recently. I'm not used to doing that, so it's like you have to think like in real time, like, well, how am I going to do this? But again, if you're just going with like, you're focusing on, well, I have to create these shadows that make up the beard. I guess this is. I don't know. Do you call it a beard? Um, you're mostly safe, If you paint shadows, you're probably going to be okay. Now, this area also is dark, so now that this is dried a bit, I kind of want to work in another layer to kind of get this stuff dark. Again, you guys have seen my other coffee paintings. I wish I had one in front of me. I don't. But there's a lot of stylistic stuff that comes in like a later stage where I put in splatters and, coffee rings and things like that. Some of this darkening of things that kind of occurs in, where I go back and look at it and like, okay, this beard is not dark enough. So how can I adjust those things? Well, sometimes I do watch myself there, hater. So don't be scared of color, except that it's like 100 times more expensive than tones. Yeah. I mean, one of the benefits of painting in coffee is like it's super cheap, guys. Yeah, so like I have been practicing with color. Not so much on live stream because I want to, but yeah, yeah, actually I've done some videos and stuff where I do paint with color. And you mentioned the expense of it. What I want to do is I actually have the primary colors. So like I have the red, the yellow, the blue, the white, and black. And what I'm experimenting with, and this is why I say I'm not perfect at colors yet, is because I literally want to mix my own colors. That's where I want to be. That's my goal when it comes to color. I want to be able to color match well and actually make those colors on the fly. So where it becomes expensive is if you go to the store and like, oh man, I need a green, I need 30 variations of a green because I'm doing like a forest or something like that, and you end up buying 30 different tubes of paint. Yeah, that's gonna add up. But if you learn how to mix paint, which is what I'm trying to do, um, and it's not rocket science, the color wheel is not overly complicated. It's something that most people can understand. It's just, practicing. It's like anything else. So I've been trying to practice with that. But the idea is that mixing colors is a way to save money on buying paints. So I don't know if that's actually true. You end up using the same amount of paint. So like whether it comes pre mixed, but I want to be the type of guy that mixes his own paint. So it's a it's a personal mission of mine to be able to mix paints. So that's what I've been practicing, and it is pretty cheap to pick up some cheap like I don't know. For those of you in the States, I think it's like $4 a tube for acrylic paint at Walmart. You can pick up the primary colors and I think that's like for under 20 bucks, you have all the primary colors you need to literally mix any color in the world. So, within reason. Like, but yeah, I mean that's what I suggest. That's what I'm trying. As a self-taught artist, that's my approach. I'm going to I'm going to try to mix my own colors and see where it goes. The few color paintings that you do see on my channel, that all of those are mixed colors. Yeah, limited palette. Oh, you mentioned limited palette. That's another good point. There are, what is it? I want to say Zorn. Zorn is a limited palette. There's only a few colors to that, and I think it's Zorn. Like, don't quote me on that if it's wrong, but it's something like that. But the Zorn palette, I believe, only has a few colors to it, and with that, you can create amazing pieces of art. And they're kind of like a little bit subdued. Like you're not going to get any like neon colors out of it, or you're not going to be able to do like a cyberpunk scene where there's glowing lights or anything like that. It's going to be your natural colors, like your rust colors, things like that, your browns, grays, um, like it's a little bit of orange or red, I forget which, but yeah. So you can create amazing pictures with a limited palette. Here I am working on a monotone picture, and it's not there yet, but eventually it will look amazing. If you don't believe me, go check out my other work. But yeah, like just dealing with one color, it creates some cool stuff, especially this coffee. I mean, if you're gonna create with one color, can't go wrong with black and white. If you want to get creative with it, like I sometimes use blue just because I like blue, but brown, looks good. So I actually recommend doing monotone pictures if you're just getting started. Like if you, like if you're struggling with color, like you're wanting to learn how to mix colors and all that stuff, like I am. Um, the first step is actually to be able to like paint different values and so on, because it really doesn't matter if you've got the colors right if you're not able to get like the shadows and lights and all that stuff in there. So or just the technique of putting a brush to the page and making it form something recognizable. um yeah, that I recommend just doing like a monotone picture just to get started. So like if you've never painted, that's kind of what I'm talking about. If you've never painted before, start with monotones just to get your feet wet, and then move up to worrying about color, because you can create some pretty cool pictures monotone. But yeah, to Michael's point, especially with watercolor. Oh, that's another thing. Like depending on what kind of paint you're dealing with, like it's going to be different how you mix those colors as well. So watercolor is transparent. So what you're going to be doing there is you're going to be mixing colors by applying layers, right? So like, you might have some blue and you put some yellow over it, it becomes green, because they're transparent. Versus something like acrylics or gouache or something like that, which is going to be more opaque. That's going to be a different process. You're probably going to be mixing that, on your palette, which in my palette is just like a plate, right? So I'm over here with coffee on a plate. Um, Sorry, that's not actually in the camera shot, but um, yeah. So like your acrylics, you're probably going to be mixing on your palette. Your watercolors, I mean, you can still mix them on your palette to some degree, but a lot of it's going to be on the actual paper. So some of that informs, how you actually work. And again, I am a new artist, and I am self-taught. This is all stuff that I've discovered in the past year. I am not an expert on this. This is just trial and error. Like I've done some watercolors as tests, and that's what it looks like to me. I do watch other people's tutorials and stuff like that, and I do pass on what I learned from there. But um, yeah, again, it's not rocket science. This is artists, you know, part of it's science, but a lot of it's imagination. So like you you try things, see how they work, and respond to it. I mean, isn't that how science is, right? So like, you test something, make an observation, make an adjustment, keep trucking along. It's if nothing else, it's fun, guys. Like creating pictures that look like a bison. I can't understate how much fun it is. Um, so yeah, there's stuff to know, but it becomes kind of intuitive after a while. Like the stuff have to know. It's not like I mean, I guess it could be an encyclopedia of knowledge, but the stuff you need to know in order to create a pretty picture, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. Um, Most of you guys know I do computer programming in my day job. That's a lot of stuff you have to know. And guess what? They change this stuff on you every couple of years, so you have to relearn everything. It's not the same with painting. The stuff that I'm doing here, some guy in a cave could have been doing this like, well, I guess paper would have to be invented first. So whenever they invented paper, um, coffee's been around forever. But whenever they invented paper, that's how long they've been doing this stuff. But hey, even before then, they were like, taking little pigments out of the ground and grinding them up and making like cool things with the equivalent of pastels. So yeah, the stuff you need to know to make pretty pictures in art is not anything. You shouldn't be intimidated by it. And I'm talking to the young people in the audience out there who are wondering if this is right for them as they go forward in life. Don't be intimidated by it. It's meant to be fun. Now, if you ever get a job and you have a deadline, then you can be intimidated by it. But until then, have fun with it because it's a lot of fun. And I feel like I'm telling you guys stuff you already know. Like anybody who does art knows it's fun. Well, that's not true. I go on Reddit sometimes, and there's people in the subs that are like just frustrated and kind of like down in the dumps. Like they're like, "Why isn't my art perfect?" and all that stuff, and why is it so challenging and everything. To those people, I would say, look, you got to remember it's supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. And I think you need to just stop caring how it turns out and just have fun and experiment. Make a mess and try to make something out of it. That's all I do. And you know, I'm a little bit concerned whether it looks nice, but that's just because I want it to look nice. But if it doesn't look nice, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. I'll just make a different picture. If it doesn't look nice, I'll just redo it. There you go. Isn't everyone's cup of tea, to be honest. I wasted almost $500 on or 500 pounds on supplies and made nothing, just complete bollocking. Tried Procreate and found myself that I am a digital one. That's the benefit of digital. Like honestly, like if you're worried about the cost of art supplies, just go digital. That's fine. I prefer traditional art just because I like the feel of pen and paper. I like the feel of like a brush in my hand. Well, it could be a stylus, but I prefer to have something tangible that I don't have to have sent off to a printer or something like that. But that's just me. You don't have to do what I do. In fact, I'm almost doing this as a revolt against digital, just because everything's digital. Um, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just me complaining about digital. If you're worried about art supplies, practice in digital at least. Not every skill thing and like every skill that you learn in digital translates to traditional art, but many of them do. Like just being able to see things in terms of values and shapes and so on, that all translates. How you actually do it with layers and properties on your brushes and stuff like that. That some of that stuff doesn't translate one to one, but it's a start. Get started that way if you're worried about the cost of art supplies. If you're really worried about cost of supplies, cost of art supplies, paint a picture in coffee, guys. This I think I spent $1 on this coffee. A dollar and some paper will get you a beautiful bison. There you go. Not rocket science, but definitely a science. Yeah, there is science to this. There really is. Some of the science I don't even know, but it's trial and error. I whether I know the science or not, it works for me. So hey, love it. Um, it's tough. It's tough. You have to try certain art materials to figure out what works for you. But at the same time, art supply stores are very tempting places. Oh yeah, yeah. Um, I'm a kid in a candy store when I go to the art supply store, even if I don't actually buy the supplies. And don't get me wrong, I want to stress that I am on a journey of my own where I am learning, you know, what works best for me. So for me to keep my costs down, I'll try, you know, painting with copy or something like that, just because it doesn't cost anything, right? And then like if I am creating something like the Mona Lisa and I want it to last 500 years or something like that, then I'll probably start caring about like, well, all right, who made this? What's the quality of this, and so on. If I do, I don't do a lot of commission work, but whenever I do commission work, I do care about things like, well, what's the quality of this? Like when it comes to my colored pencils, I make sure that I use the Prismacolor. Those are really solid pencils. Um, when it comes to like acrylic paints, I use the Liquitex. That's pretty solid. There's probably better quality out there and stuff, but like in my price range, I keep it pretty pretty on the low side, just because I'm a starving artist. Not really. I'm not starving artist. Not yet. I'm just an artist who wants to get better at it. That's all. And I know that I'm going to burn through a lot of art supplies in my little experiments to see what does work for me. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. And when you're first learning, like I am, you're going to burn through like a lot of supplies. Like I've wasted a lot of paper. I've wasted a lot of paint. Even here. So like, for example, all right, look at that pile of coffee on this. I don't need that much coffee. I don't need that much coffee for this picture. I barely used much coffee on this because they're all like light layers. So I waste I waste art supplies. Now imagine if that was like a big tube of paint, which whenever I do a painting, for some reason I put way too much paint on my palette, and that's wasteful. So there are ways to cut down your costs, but one of them is just get cheap stuff and learn to paint by. Hi Jeremy, nice buffalo, thank you. So I'm not so. So here's the thing. Did a drawing of a buffalo one time, and I caught so much flack because people were saying that's not a buffalo, that's a bison. And I'll tell you guys, and this is part of the science. You really need to know your subject matter, right? So like, what are you actually painting? I don't know. I'm not a zoologist, so I don't know the difference between a bison and a buffalo. I know that sometimes the terms are used interchangeably. I think there's a technical difference between them. In the United States, we often call them buffalo, but I think this is technically a bison, but I'm not even sure of that. So I'm going to call it a bison, even though it's a buffalo. Or Tatanka. Remember Dances with Wolves? It's a Tatanka. I think it's a buffalo, but people have corrected me and told me it's a bison. So in terms of this painting, it's a bison, even though it's a buffalo for real. I don't know the difference though. And I do defer to these guys because these are the type of guys that hang out at like Yellowstone. They're like really into like wildlife and stuff like that. They know a lot more about it than me. I do a lot of dog pictures. I'm a dog lover myself. I like cats and stuff like that. But even with dogs and cats and stuff, I don't know the breeds. I don't know all the technical things behind that. Oh, here's one. Like many of you guys know, I worked in the horse industry, right, for 12 years, and I still don't know all the breeds of horses. I barely know the disciplines of horses when it comes to sports and such. So, um, yeah, it's just tough. I don't retain that kind of stuff. Um, I can pick out a horse breed in some cases, like I'm pretty sure what a saddlebred is, just because there's a lot of saddle. They have saddlebreds in Louisville. I'm in Kentucky for those of you guys who don't know, and they have horse shows all the time around here. One of the big ones is the Kentucky State Fair, where they have like a lot of saddlebred showing, and so I know what a saddlebred looks like, and I know what a thoroughbred looks like because that's what they race. When it gets into some of the other breeds, it's tough for me. It really is. I know what a um, like a Belgian warm blood is, but barely, you know. The emphasis is not on price, rather, I am attempting to convey is that proficiency in encryption does not automatically translate to in creating aesthetically pleasing copy. Fair enough. Fair enough. There is a lot involved in it. Some of it's science, some of it's the quality of your supply, some of it's the skill of the artist, some of it's pure luck. Um, you know, I'm not sure I like this curve, so that's bad luck. I'm gonna have to fix that later. Um, I'm happy with this one. Like, look at that. That looks nice, right? I'm happy with how that pulled. I didn't plan that. That's pure luck. Yeah, sometimes it is pure luck, especially if you do expressive pictures, like loose expressive pictures. Like, there's some skill to it and stuff, but you know, at least artists seem to think there is. But to me, it just seems like luck. You're so lucky that that line or that drip of coffee just happened to work that way or something like that. That happens every picture I do. There's a fair amount of luck involved. So I don't know if you guys are noticing or not, but every time I add like a new splotch or something, all of them kind of like pull together to really bring that face out. And it's not there yet, but it's starting to like this like little bland area here. As I start adding it, it kind of just starts coming together, and it's a long process. Again, like I said, some of these pictures, and for the fine detail and stuff like that, I never let my streams go too far. Like they usually go for about 2 hours, but um, I even after the stream is over, I end up working on them, and sometimes it goes up to like 5 hours. Um, but it really is just going back and forth over various areas and just adding more and more layers. And I always tell people to check out the community tab the next morning because I stay up all night working on it even after the stream is over. And it starts coming together. It's just layers and layers and layers. I mean, especially with this buffalo, you do have like a lot of matted fur up here. Just a bunch of little blotches that kind of come together. And they would be different blotches if I was doing like an owl wing, like the last one I did. Like if you guys haven't seen, so I didn't do a live stream with the owl, but I did post it up as a short. If you guys are curious what that looks like, I'm pretty proud of those wings because I wasn't sure how I was going to do the feathers on them, but I think it worked out. And then of course, if I was doing a horse, most of them have short hair, so you wouldn't even see any of this texture. You would just see like shadows and highlighted areas. Hey Tom, how's it going? Jeremy's streams are therapeutic while he creates something that is always great. Uh, Gotta go, but thanks for the end. Hey, I appreciate it, Tom. I do try to keep, like, honestly, if if you guys just watch this stuff and it's like relaxing for you and you guys are chilling out and just having a good conversation, that's all I'm here for. So if that's all you guys are here for is just to relax and chill out and have like a little bit of a vacation during your week or something like that, I feel like I've done my job because like that's awesome. So up here it kind of gets like a little like I'll move this down a little bit. Um, Whenever I'm doing these, oh, I should mention this is a 12 by 18. Usually when I do pictures, they're like 9 by 12. For these pictures, I'm trying to do them bigger because they're going to end up on a wall in a coffee shop, so I don't want them to be too small. I always put it on this other board so I can kind of slide it around. So up here you kind of have some wispy hair. And again, this all needs to be darker, but I do kind of want to get some of that wisping in. Yeah, I mean, you can mess it up, but like, feel free to like, just have fun with it. You want it to like be natural, just kind of going everywhere. Like, you can always fix this stuff up later anyway, with darker layers over it. So like, if you're not happy with a particular length, you can erase coffee, which is fun. You can get like clear water and kind of go over it and then kind of mop it up. Um, these are all things I've been learning again through trial and error. I know people familiar with watercolor who's been doing that for a while. They probably already know all this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that's boring, Jeremy. Why are you even mentioning that? That's like watercolor 101." But to me, it's amazing, like because I do kind of learn some of these things just by like accident, and I'm like, "Oh, that's neat. I'm going to store that in my tool belt for the next time I need it." So my earliest coffee painting of a horse, I did none of that. And now I kind of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do that more often just because it's helpful. So I'm not too worried about things. So like, I'll give you an example. I don't know if it's going to work exactly, but I'm not happy. Let me find a brush here. Let's clean. There you go. I've got some clean water over here. So like, say I didn't like this, right? I can kind of like wet it. Get some, I can wet it down really good, right? And then I take my brush and I just kind of wipe it off. Now it's a dry brush and I can kind of mop up some of this stuff. So it doesn't disappear completely, but it becomes a lot less noticeable. So I might come back with some splatters and stuff and clean that up. But it's just, it's kind of neat. You can erase paint. It's I don't know. Maybe you guys aren't as fascinated by that. So I don't like this line here. So a little bit is eventually all of this is going to be like kind of like colored in anyway. So I can kind of get some of that light tone back here. And then this kind of disappears. So it's not just creating a cool picture off the get-go, it's also fixing mistakes and kind of adjusting and stuff like that. So I don't mind some of this tone kind of blending into the neck. Yeah, it does lift out. And honestly, Michael, like you mentioned that you're more familiar with watercolor. That's one of the benefits of this coffee. This coffee isn't meant to be used this way, right? So like it does stain, so you can see that original line, but you can lift it up a lot easier, I think, than watercolor. And you can just kind of move it around. So it reactivates really easily, right? So like this will pull here. If I added water to it, it'll reactivate. I can move it around, whatever I need to do. So it's a very friendly medium. Again, I recognize that coffee is not something everybody uses. And in fact, it may be new to some people. I do point out that it's been around for quite some time. It started becoming more popular like in 2010 where people were like, oh, that's interesting that you can paint in coffee, and then the blogs were kind of like promoting it and whatever. So it's been around for a while, but it is often overlooked, and I've become a super fan of it actually. And I'm almost like I'm basically an advocate for it, like almost like an evangelist. I'm like, have you tried coffee? It's so much fun. um, but yeah, I can't. It's very friendly. It's easy to fix mistakes. It's easy to cover up mistakes, which might be even better. Um, if you can't fix it, just cover it up. It's easy to make adjustments. Some of the downsides to it is, yeah, you probably do want to use some clear coat when you're done, just to kind of lock that stuff in, because like moisture and you know things like that might damage it over time. So you do want to be careful from that standpoint. But beyond that, it's very friendly. Very friendly. I recommend it to people who are just wanting to get their feet wet. You know, maybe like watercolor's not that expensive, but say for whatever reason you're afraid of like wasting watercolor, give coffee a shot. You know. Plus, it smells nice. Thank you. Yes. Um, I could be drinking coffee. I'm drinking a martini tonight, but I could be drinking coffee while I'm painting with coffee. Oh, actually, that's funny. So hold on. So I usually do have a glass of something while I'm doing these shows, and I don't think anybody in this room was here for that. But a couple of months back, I was doing a watercolor picture, and I had my glass of something that I was drinking very close to my water thing, and I ended up drinking my watercolor water by accident. So that's not good. I mean, it's not toxic. Most watercolors are, but imagine if that was coffee, it wouldn't be so bad. There you go. I don't know if that's really a selling point for using coffee in your paintings, but it certainly would have improved that night, because that was super embarrassing to drink my watercolor water. Yes, kid was here. Okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, if that was coffee, like this is my coffee water. It just looks like watered down tea, guys. I mean, that's not bad. You can drink that. Probably doesn't taste good, but it's not going to kill you, and it's probably a little less embarrassing. I knew it as soon as I drank it. I'm like, this is not what I thought it was. Whoops. It was kind of funny though, so I don't mind telling that story, because like, if you can't laugh at yourself, then who are you gonna laugh at? I don't. I try not to laugh at other people. So I don't mind making jokes at my own expense. I just was looking at that beard and I'm like, that's super light. I want to get it darker. But yeah, um, obviously I'm into it. It's I do want so I have been doing a lot of um coffee paintings lately, and I do want to kind of like try to do some watercolor just to just to see if any of those skills that I picked up doing the coffee painting translate over. I'm sure they will, but I want to kind of like, new thing in your tool belt. You want to try it out. You get a new toy at Christmas. You want to play with it. Jeremy, any update on Olivia's current health status? I hope she is recovering well. As far as I know, she's doing well. I haven't been able to reach out to her. I know I said I was going to the other day, but I got kind of busy. Um, I will make a note to make sure that I do check in on her tomorrow, and I will let you guys know. But again, no news is good news. I haven't heard anything bad. Her husband and I are pretty good friends, so I'm sure he would have reached out if there was anything bad. But yeah, I am a little sad. I haven't seen her post any art lately, which she was really into that. So I hope she gets back into that soon. So hopefully, because like this time last year, she was doing like a small art show. I showed you guys what the pictures she works on. Like, um, so here's an example. So this is the kind of art she does. She does these alcohol ink pictures, which I love. These are beautiful abstract pictures, and this is what she was doing last year at this time. She was doing art shows with that and stuff, and I haven't seen her do any art shows. Well, obviously she's had different concerns for the last year, but I'm hoping she gets back into that soon. I really am, and I'm gonna I don't know if she's feeling down in the dumps or like a little, um, you know, like overwhelmed or whatever. But I'm gonna continue. Hey, Olivia, if you're watching, I'm you got to get on this art stuff. I'm gonna keep encouraging her to pick that back up because I do think it's been a while since. I don't know. Maybe she's worked on some small pieces, but I haven't seen her post any. So I'm hoping she gets back into that soon. Bye, Larry. Have a good one. I appreciate it. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is probably going to take me a little bit longer, but hopefully you guys are seeing where it's going. You're starting to see a face in it. And I know whenever Larry dips out, I'm like, oh, well, okay. Yeah, we are close to the 2 hour mark. I might go a little bit over just because I'm having a good time, but don't feel like you guys are obligated to continue watching. I usually call it quits whenever the dogs start getting antsy. That's my so for those of you guys who are new, my dogs sit in here and watch me well, they usually sleep while I'm doing this, but they hang out in here and while I work on things, but eventually they start getting restless and I have to put them out, and that's when I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I've been doing this too long. And then I pick it back up later and work on it throughout the evening, but that's kind of how it goes. All right, guys, it's not time. Go lay down. It's so great. We're creating art here, guys. Get us. Come on, go lay down. Jump it. Yeah. So I noticed that this is still white here, so I'm gonna add some tone through here. And then every time I add tone, I look at this and I'm like, well, this needs to go darker. So that's kind of how that works. And then this over here needs to be a little bit darker. Yeah, kid, it was worth the price of admission, considering it's free to watch me make an ass of myself. Glad you enjoyed it. Happy to oblige. I mean, it's art. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes you drink the art water. It happens. You don't make a habit of it, but accidents happen. You drink the watercolor water and you just keep on trucking. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but it really is because this is one of the downsides to coffee. And maybe it's just the way I do it. I don't know. Maybe other people have different experience with it. But my observation is that you don't get as much pigment out of it. Even when you're like applying less water. So like it doesn't matter how little bit of water I apply. You only get it so dark, right? So that's a downside. It probably takes a little bit longer to get dark areas. And my observation is that this is about as dark as you're going to get it until it dries and you pile things on. Now, down here, you can kind of see, well, it's a little bit tough, but down here, you can start seeing that, the top layers are becoming that kind of crustiness that I was talking about earlier, where you're no longer painting over, well, you're painting over paper, but it's no longer being absorbed into the paper, and now it's just layers on top of coffee on top of coffee, and that's when you start getting your darker areas. So, for example, let me see if this is dry. Yeah, so that's pretty dry, right? And I want, so I'll go ahead and show you guys how this works. So I want that eye to be super dark. So I apply a little bit of water, and you can kind of see on the edge of this coffee, it's not that great because my lighting in here sucks. I need to get better lighting. If I mix it up, I'll start to get this kind of syrupy thing. Now, this is totally not my experience with watercolor. This is unique to working with coffee. But if I get that syrupy mix there, then let me move this off to the side. So now I can kind of come over and, you know, as long as I kind of like blot it in and I'm not like smoothing it out too much, it's really hard to see on camera, but you see how darker that eye is getting. Now that's going to dry dark um, versus those underlayers, which don't dry dark. Those underlayers get absorbed into the paper, and it's not gonna be as dark, right? So I'm gonna leave a little bit here for like a highlight, which I'll probably come in and mop up and kind of remove some of that. But that's how you get your details. That's how you get your dark details that everybody seems to like. And that's a little bit different than the watercolor process because, with watercolor, for the most part, if you use black, it's going to come out black. I mean, it may take you 2 layers or something like that, but the less water you use, it's going to be mostly black and it's going to be mostly dark and so on. This, you really have to work at it. So if you look at any of my finished pictures, which those of you guys are new, for the most part, I post them up on the community tab. So if you go and look at some of the coffee paintings that I've done so far, you'll see that those come out super dark, and it's a painstaking, time-consuming process, but you really have to wait for those underlayers to dry before you can get it like that. And I'm doing this eye just as like an example, but if you see what I did there with the eye, I have to do that across the entire picture. So again, right here in the nose, it's going to be super dark. So I have to wait for it to dry and become like a crusty shell, essentially. I like to call it like, I don't know, not everybody has creme brulee, but it's the first thing that comes to my mind. There's other stuff where you kind of like, I don't know, like if you ever toast cheese, like the cheese on top of your pizza, right? Where it gets kind of crusty. Um, that's what I'm talking about. So you get that crust going, and then you can come back over it with like very little bit of water to coffee ratio, and then you can start to get your darks in there, if that makes sense. Hey, Heidi. Encourage Olivia to start her own YouTube channel. She's shy. So that would be, I will encourage her. And I think I mentioned it to her before. Um, she does do um, Instagram. She does like reels on Instagram, but I don't think she shows her face or anything. So if she did a YouTube show, she probably would do a YouTube show. I don't know if she'd like be as talkative as I am. Um, I will encourage her to, but I don't know if she'll go for it. And if she does go for it, it would be less talking and definitely not doing like a face reveal or anything like that because she's kind of shy. Um, I'm shy. I actually have like a lot of like social anxiety over like public speaking and stuff. Part of this channel is actually so that I get over that kind of stuff. Like part of it is to learn better art, and part of it is more so that I can, cope in the world of having to interact with people. Um, I feel like talking to a camera is a like nice little safe thing. It gets me out of my bubble. And then, you know, when I talk to people in person, it goes better because I talk to you guys. See how that works? So thank you for that. Oh, sorry. Heidi says, "Hi, Jeremy. I was wondering if there was a way you can share your reference photos before your live so we can paint along with you." Oh, that would be awesome. So I'm not really set up to do that. I have done that in the past. So what I could do is, I mean, I didn't know that's something you guys would want to do, but yeah, I can put like another little square like underneath me or something that shows like the reference picture. Like in this case, it's just a buffalo. But yeah, I can do that. That's a great ask. I will try to do that in the future. I didn't know that you guys do that, like paint along with me. That's cool. Usually, like if I'm doing a portrait of somebody that I'm really trying to, like, especially with people, with animals, you know, one buffalo looks like another. Uh, so I haven't been in the habit of doing that, but yeah, if that's what you guys want to do, I can definitely accommodate. That'd be awesome. Thanks, Heidi. In fact, if that's something you guys want to do, I can actually maybe tailor my stream more towards that. So, like, instead of just sitting around chatting like we are tonight, I can maybe do like a demo where I'm more like, okay, this is what you do, and then you do this, and then you do this. And it probably wouldn't be the coffee because it takes forever to do these coffee pictures, but I can do that definitely with some of the other types of pictures that I do. I like that idea. Thank you, Heidi. I like that you want that. That's cool. Because, like, you know, it's enough for me to just hang out with you guys and make pretty pictures. But if you guys are enjoying this and you guys are wanting more out of it, I'm happy to accommodate. I just don't know what you guys want. So I'm surprised you guys show up, to be honest. Like, to be completely honest, like, ooh, what are you guys doing here? I don't get it. But no, I definitely appreciate that. And, you know, anything I can do to make things better for you guys, you let me know. I'm happy to show my appreciation, which is it's deep. I have a deep appreciation for you guys showing up every week. So thank you very much. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll try to do something like that Friday, where it's not just hanging out. It's more like of a, you know, step one, step two, step three kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I've never thought of myself as like an instructor. I consider myself a student, but it would be fun to try. So we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. And if I fail, I fail. That's just something more I need to practice. So again, kind of like mentioning this dark stuff. Like I really need to. I think the next coffee painting I do, I am going to start with the base stuff already done because I feel like you guys, especially you guys that have tuned into a couple of these, you've probably seen that process enough to where I'll focus more on the detailing, which is what I'm kind of doing now. Um, so I'll do all this stuff beforehand and then come back and start doing the detailing. But as you can see, you know, it's starting to darken in some of these areas so that you start getting more of those features in there. And, you know, there's a lot of areas that are dark in this. So it'll take some time, but, you know, there's kind of like a little circle here. This is where the fun parts are because you actually, and I can do some of this with a larger brush. I'm going to try that. Um, it is, and I mentioned this earlier, it became apparent to me when working on the owl, which required a larger brush for those um, feathers. I noticed that the way I actually do this is I end up dabbing, right? If you string, if you just go across, right, it's not pulling that coffee in a way that it dries darker. So the way I found is that I kind of have to dab it in. It's a little bit more difficult to do with a larger brush, but I think I am getting better at that, where Now I can load up this brush with like a lot of coffee and try it that way. I think that's what ultimately worked for those feathers. But even then, it's not as good as the liner brush in getting these darker areas in. So it is kind of a painstaking process, or time-consuming process at least. But you do what you got to do. All for the love of art. Hands-on learner. Yeah, no, I'm fully aware that people learn in different ways and stuff. So like, I'm happy to accommodate that. If that's how I learn. Is I learn by watching somebody doing it and trying myself. Sometimes in real time, like while they're doing it. Often, like I watch what they're doing. And I kind of try to commit it to memory and then try it myself. But it's always better, like when you're trying to mimic what somebody else is doing. I mean, that's what worked with everybody in Bob Ross, right? Like we all watched Saturday morning Bob Ross creating his paintings, and we all try to give it a shot. Even like little toddler me, um, you know, I tried doing Bob Ross when I was a little kid. You know, the left horn needs a darker tone. Which one? So left facing. Oh, this one or this one? So that gets. I'll start with the one over here in the upper left on my from my perspective. So this one gets some dark through here to give it kind of some definition. So this needs to be dark, and then this flows into some fur that kind of comes off of the thing. But we'll go ahead and get this started just so that. And I'm always amazed when I can create a circle because like that's taking some practice. I was never very good at that in my first attempts at creating paintings. Is actually getting like a smooth curved line. But yeah, so there's some darkness underneath it, and then that kind of comes down. It's really dark through here. And I'm going to switch to a larger brush to see if I can knock this out a little bit quicker. I'm going to load up this larger brush, kind of a bit of coffee. I don't know how dark it's going to come out, but really try. A lot of times if you just kind of scrub it over here in the palette, you can kind of see that here. I'm kind of just going back and forth. You want it to dissolve, but you really just kind of want to like load it up when you brush. So in this case, it's not going to come out as dark as it needs to be eventually, but I kind of want to go ahead and get this going since you called attention to it. You've got underneath the horn some darker area flowing into kind of like a fluff of hair coming off, and then it kind of comes down and straggles almost through here. So what I was planning on doing is doing another little dark area. In fact, I'll go ahead and do it. Why talk about it when you can do it? So I wanted to kind of do like a little bit of a dark area there, and then kind of use the gravity again to make that run a little bit. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, so get that going. And then instead of like letting it go all the way down the page, stop it and let it pool. So that's not going to dry quite as dark as it did down here, but that's how you get as it did down here. So like I stopped it mid drip. So if I just leave that there and let that sit and dry, hopefully some of that pools. We'll have to see because you don't really know until like you go back and look at it later. But while that's working, I'll go ahead and finish working up here. So that kind of comes down into this like little darker area. Now, if that dries the way I want it to, it's going to be a little bit darker than everything else. And then there's going to be some highlights there. And then if you guys remember my erasing thing, some of you guys were in here earlier when I was talking about how you can erase the coffee. I'll come back with some clear water and lift some of that up to create like some highlights on the hair. But it's just tufts of hair to kind of come down through here and then back behind here. And I ultimately want this to be darker, but this is a good start. And then kind of bring that in. And then this kind of comes down kind of underneath that eye socket. Yeah, it's going to look smoother the more layers that you add. But underneath that eye socket, it kind of gets a little bit darker. And then I don't want to mess with this because if I do, it'll start, like if I just kind of touch it over here, it'll start mopping up and I want it to pull. So I'm just kind of curious how this is going to dry. So I'm just going to leave this be. And if it doesn't dry exactly the way I want, I'll come back and tinker with it later. But yeah, and then some of that darkness kind of comes down through here. Um, so there's like a lot of touch ups and stuff that happens, and I'll leave that kind of straggly, and then see how that dries, and then I may make additional adjustments. There's some more blotching here, and then over here the darkness is again kind of around this horn. There's some detail I need to add to the horn, like there's some dark areas, um, but there's kind of like some dark outlining of this horn over here. And I kind of touched upon it earlier when I was adding this, but this kind of area back here is dark. And what's cool about that is this dark area kind of frames in this eyeball, which is a lot lighter. Not eyeball, but eye ridge and so on. You don't actually see the eye so well over here. You kind of see a bit of it, so that would be around here. And I'll worry about the details on that later, but that's all you really get to see of this eye. I mean, this eye is kind of like a little bit off the or behind things and stuff. I was gonna say off screen, but it's not. It's on the screen. Yeah. And then some other darker areas. So I'm just kind of quickly going through and getting some of this darker areas in. So up here, this all is going to be dark. Again, I already did that just a few moments ago, but you see how it's just adding a bunch of layers over layers because it dries a lot lighter. You end up working this picture a lot. Again, like I said, on these bigger pictures that I do, it's not unheard of to spend 5 hours on it. I'm not going to put you guys through that, but yeah, you could end up spending about 5 hours getting it just so. But then also, I'm not a perfectionist, but also it's like I want it. I look at it several times and make value judgments on like whether or not I think it's done. So that's kind of why it takes like 5 hours. 5 hours is a rough amount. I don't know if it's fair to say exactly 5 hours. But yeah, so once these dark areas come in, you start seeing the face a little bit more. So again, I just did this part. It was pretty dark, but it's drying kind of light, so I'll go over it again. Fortunately, that's just part of the process with working with coffee. And that's why, if you go and Google coffee pictures, some of them are amazing, right? Like in fact, don't Google coffee paintings because you'll see that a lot of them put mine to shame. But you'll also see that these are better than some people's because people don't put in that extra effort of getting that dark area in. Like like they'll do like a light valued coffee painting and call it done. And they look okay. Particularly like with landscape pictures. I've seen people do landscape pictures where they'll just get the basic like, oh, there's a mountain here and stuff and so on. And that's all fine. It looks okay and stuff, but I think you can really kick it up a notch and kick it up a notch. I'm not Emerald. You can take it to another level by really just being patient and going back over it and making sure that you really get those dark values in there because like I think that is really what makes these characters, which all these wildlife pictures that I do, I think of them as characters. Um, it's really what brings them to life. So like this is still kind of light down here, but I really want some dark areas. So I'll just keep going over it and pulling that coffee so that it dries and um it's supposed to the metaphor here is and it's not that, right? It's kind of a sleight of hand. But the metaphor here is that, oh, I spilled coffee on my paper and it became a buffalo. That's what you're going for. You're going for something that's kind of in between something that looks accidental, but also there's like a lot of detail and a lot of stuff that isn't accidental. But you want it to look accidental because that's the metaphor. The metaphor is, oops, I spilled coffee. And then out popped the buffalo. That's what the end user, the end user doesn't see end user like it's software. Um, the the viewer doesn't see the process. The viewer looks at it and is like, oh wow, you painted that with coffee. And they, in their mind, it's like, oh, you spilled coffee on the paper and it just became a buffalo. That's what you're going for. Now, you and I know better, that this is actually by design. It's not an accidental buffalo. Now back here, this is a buffalo hump. And because it's further away from the face, you don't have to put a lot of detail in here. Again, it's just kind of imply and suggest. You just want to suggest that hump does exist. There were some choices I made in the composition. I don't know if this is the perfect composition or whatever, but one of the composition choices, I could have just done the face, and I rejected that in favor of, well, it's a buffalo. You got to get, or bison, sorry. Um, you have to work in a bit of a hump because that's a defining feature, I think. But you don't have to be super detailed back here. You just kind of have to let people know, yeah, there is mass back there. There is part of the bison's body. Because the can says, "Come on, man, they don't even look like a bear." Really? I tried really hard to make it look like a bear. I love it when you guys say things like that. Oh my God. So many people have been calling my chipmunk a squirrel. Somebody reached out to me asking me if I had any plans for that squirrel. I'm like, well, it's a chipmunk, so I think the chipmunk really turned out well in coffee. The challenge is, as I get further along, I want to actually introduce some detail through here so that it's not just all kind of abstract blotting, which is what the underlayers kind of look like. I think this might be the longest I've talked about the process of coffee painting. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it and learning some stuff. So to find that horn a little bit more. Again, you really want, I mean, this is just thinking. It's not like I was planning this, but um, key features you really want those to like kind of shine through, right? So like when you think about a buffalo, the horns are a key feature. So you want to make sure you get that right. And there's some detail that I'm going to introduce in this horn, so there's not just one like bit of a mess. And then some of this area, it's going to be darker through here, but I might have to load up my brush a little bit with some dark. So you got to get the horns right on a buffalo. You got to get the eyes right. You gotta figure out that matted fur, and this blotching isn't going to do it. I'm going to have to introduce some more finer detail at some point. And but yeah, gotta make sure all those features are in there. The nose is important on a buffalo. It's like if you're doing a cat, you gotta make sure those whiskers are in there. But yeah, we're probably getting close to a point where probably have to call it for the night and then kind of work on it offline. But it does sound like my dogs aren't bothering me too much. So I'm going to go a little bit longer. I'm just kind of warning you guys that they have this internal clock where around the 2 hour mark, they kind of get antsy. So they're terrible dogs. I love them so much. And then a little bit lighter. Get some shadow through here. Just kind of a little bit modded. Mottled? Mottled? Is that a word? I don't I don't know the proper words for things. Or I don't pronounce them correctly. Or I think I'm pronouncing them correctly, and then I come to find later that no, not at all. So once that dries, I'm gonna add a little bit more shadow there. Oh, great question, Michael. I appreciate that. And thank you for showing up. So I usually stream at 8 p.m. Eastern. So Eastern time zone in the United States. I live in Kentucky, so that's where that's my time zone. Uh, I usually I usually do two streams a week. I usually do Tuesdays and Fridays, and I'm pretty consistent about that. Every now and then I might, go crazy and do like another live stream or something like that. But it's usually pretty consistently those days. And again, the community tab is where you would check for any kind of like schedule differences. I'll try to let you know in advance if I'm not going to be able to make it because I have some sort of like prior. Oh, kid already said. What kid said? Yes. So Tuesdays and Fridays, um, and they usually like I try to be respectful of people's time. Like I'll spend a good 5 hours on this picture, no problem, right? But I try to be respectful of people's time. So like I try not to make you guys sit through all of that. Um, in fact, I think if I do the next one of these I'll do a lot of that pre stuff early and then just come back and add the details and stuff and make you guys, not make you guys watch it. That is the wrong term. I will not make you guys watch this. Um, I, I will do the details and stuff so that you guys get a chance to watch that kind of stuff. But if you watch my shorts, which are like 30 seconds each, no, 15 seconds actually, I forgot I reduced it. Um, those kind of show like a time lapse of the full process, like me adding details. So you sh you can kind of see where this is going to be going from that. But yeah, Tuesdays and Fridays, and you know, like tonight, it's pretty much how they go. We just whoever shows up, and we just kind of hang out and we chat. And I try to fill the air by describing what I'm doing. You know, I'm not a public speaker, so it's not like I really nail that part of it. And sometimes I get a little lost in what I'm doing, and I kind of like lose track and stuff like that. But I just kind of ramble and like I'm doing now. But that's what you should expect because it's been pretty consistent. A little bit of background since you are new is like I started my channel in January of last year, and it was a New Year's resolution. I'm a programmer by trade. That's what I usually do. Like that's my day job, and I was a little frustrated because I wasn't. There's not a lot of room for creativity in programming. Now there is. You do some problem solving and you get to be creative to a certain extent, but in terms of like visual arts and stuff like that, unless you're like a graphic designer, you're doing that part of programming or something like that, you don't really get a lot of opportunity to be creative. And that kind of really sucks, right? So like um, I've always had an interest in drawing, and that's kind of what I've done since I was a kid, but I've never really took up art as like a real pastime, something that I was actively doing or trying to get better at. So that was my New Year's resolution last year. Is I'm going to basically do art every day and try to get better at it and try to see where that goes and see if I enjoy it. And I'm happy to report a year later, enormous success. Like last year, pretty much art every day, even if I wasn't live streaming it. And I kind of kept to that goal. It was probably the first New Year's resolution I've ever done that I actually stuck with. And I'm continuing that this year with, some more loftier goals. Like my goals this year is to create enough pictures to where somebody lets me hang them up on the wall somewhere. I don't care where, coffee shop, gallery, wherever I can get it. And then if I'm lucky, maybe I'll do it like an art show this year. Like I'm gonna try that, but that's just a goal. I don't know if I'm gonna stick to it because like you may or may not know, art shows come with like a lot of overhead and you have to have like inventory and all that stuff. So baby steps, and I'm a big advocate of that. Baby steps where you set little goals and you improve a little bit at a time, and that's kind of what's worked out for me so far. And if you guys enjoy watching that sort of thing, I encourage you guys to show up. If that's not your thing, show up anyway. Maybe you'll have a laugh. But yeah, I'm a self-taught artist just trying to get better. Got about a year into this, and you can go back. I don't want you to, but you can if you want to. You can go back to my earlier videos, and you can see there's been a lot of progress. Like my earlier attempts at art were not that great. They were okay, but they were not anything I was proud of. And definitely no consistency there. So some of them were okay, some of them were actually great. And then the very next one I do is just complete garbage. So there was no consistency there. I think I'm getting better at that. I think I'm getting better at accomplishing what I want to accomplish in a picture. Um, it's not perfect. It's not, and I realize I have a long way to go before I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, but I'm getting there, And yeah, so you'll find Jeremy practicing art. So maybe you might pick up some tips there. Hey, if you have tips, like it sounds like you're an artist as well. I'm open to hearing those. And I feel like it's a two-way street. So like if you guys want to critique my art, I'm totally into that. If you want to give me tips, I'll take them. Anything that helps me improve. Uh, but otherwise, it's just me learning and sharing insights along the way, and telling you guys what works for me, and I try to be humble about it. I know that I'm not an expert, but I can tell you guys what I've seen and my observations, even if they aren't perfect or something, or like what somebody's supposed to do. Um, you know, because they actually went through a more formal way of learning art. Trial and error. That's what you're going to find here. The good and the bad. Like sometimes things just don't work out and they look like messes and stuff, and I'll share those too. Sometimes the messes are awesome, you know. Um, so far, I think this is starting to look like a buffalo. I've got some work to do on it, um, but yeah, I think it'll get there. Trust the process, as they say. I feel like this is meeting expectations of other pictures that I've done. Honestly, that's what I'm so happy about with these coffee paintings. I've done a couple of them now, and they all do look like they're by the same artist, which is cool. They all kind of have a consistent style. That's something I'm working on this year as well. I will say that, like, if you go back and you look at things I worked on last year, they were kind of all over the place. And I don't get me wrong, they're still going to be all over the place. Like, I still am going to experiment and so on. But I also want to kind of form a body of work that is consistent where somebody can look at that and say, oh, okay, that's something Jeremy did, you know? So we talk about developing your style and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to go that far into it, but um, I at least want to try, try to accomplish that one. And then, I do get bored and I try a bunch of different things. I do regular pencils, I do charcoal, I do colored pencils, I do watercolors sometimes. So I'm still going to be all over the place with that. It's not like I'm picking one thing and sticking with it. But oh, you can see how this is kind of dried a bit and it came out darker. This is perfect for, I just noticed that. This is perfect to where I can kind of come back in, start adding some of those kind of matted hair details. And then this over here, if it continues like this, so what's happened here is it's kind of caught in a pool of warped paper. Like it's hard to see on camera where the paper is warped, but that actually works to your benefit because it causes areas to pull like this. And then if I'm lucky, it'll dry dark, and then that's just cool. It looks cool, right? Hey, Packer, how's it going, man? He is adorable. Yeah, you don't want to meet this guy. If you do meet this guy, don't be like those guys out at Yellowstone. Don't go up and try to take a selfie with it or anything like that. Let it be because these things will gore you to death. Not like me, where I will bore you to death. This thing will gore you to death. So, um, if you get a chance, I haven't gotten a chance to go out to Yellowstone, but if you get a chance to go out to Yellowstone and see one of these guys, make sure you're doing it from a distance. Make sure you're respecting park rules and stuff like that, so you stay alive. Because it seems like every year you hear about some tourist or something going up and trying to get friendly with the buffalo. These are not cows. They are not. These guys will see these horns. They will stick those in you. They're adorable though. They do look like cows. Get some dark areas in here on these eyes. That's cool. Gonna So the more you work it, the more details things start to come together. That's great, kid. So you should paint with Kool-Aid sometime. I have given that some thought, and I think one of the differences, I think maybe you could actually like with the instant Kool-Aid. I think because again, I'm actually going to wrap this up pretty soon, so you're not missing much. Just make sure you check out the community tab tomorrow to kind of see how it turned out. Um, but so I was thinking about like what other things you can paint, like condiments and so on. So I think the difference is so coffee. If you actually put like a layer of clear coat on it, probably some UV protection, I think it'll hold up in sunlight if you do that. The clear coat will protect it from like moisture, especially like there's a guy at a coffee shop who already told me I can hang these up in his coffee shop. But if you imagine the environment of a coffee shop, there's probably going to be some latent moisture in the air and stuff like that. So to be on the safe side, I have done coffee paintings in the past where, once you frame them, they're behind glass, they're pretty well protected, and they last forever. But just to be on the safe side, I do recommend clear coat, UV protection, things like that. Anyway, my point is, beyond that, coffee is not going to degrade over time. It's going to hold up, for my lifetime at least. So I'm pretty happy there. I don't feel like that's the same with things like Kool-Aid. Now, I don't know if you were being serious or not, but these are the things I think about. I think these things through. I don't think Kool-Aid would be considered what they call archival quality just because it is sugar based. And I think that will break down over time. And while I think you could paint with it, I wouldn't say that's going to last for a long time versus coffee paintings, which is, it's stained paper. So yeah, that's probably going to last a lot longer. Don't think I haven't given it a thought though. Like I'm like, well, I do a monotone picture in brown. Why can't I do it in red with coffee, or like sorry, Kool-Aid? I do think there's a difference. Unfortunately, I would love to do that. Now that said, wine you could probably do. I've seen some people try, and I think they're going to suffer the same problem with coffee. That is, you're not going to get like a lot of pigment out of painting with wine. You can certainly make a picture out of it, but I think it's going to be kind of light, and I don't think you're going to be able to get these darker values out of wine. But that's that I haven't experimented with it, so maybe those guys that tried just didn't go the extra effort, and maybe they didn't try to like you know get a great deal of pigment out of it. And I'm calling it pigment. I don't really know if that's the correct term for coffee or wine or whatever, but let's just call it color. So while you can paint with wine, I don't think you're going to get like a lot of color out of it. I mentioned that I went to that art gallery like a couple of weeks back, and somebody had painted with blood, which is disgusting. But the only reason why I approached the painting is because it did look like a coffee painting. So I can say that if somebody painted something with blood, it's going to look a lot like a coffee painting. Um, I don't think you can do that with wine, though. I don't think wine's going to get you the effect that you're looking for. Or Kool-Aid. Definitely not. Instant Kool-Aid, maybe. Like, I honestly do think that you can paint exactly what I'm doing with coffee with instant Kool-Aid. But the problem is that I think it's going to end up, I think it's going to end up being, like it's going to degrade over time because it is sugar. Um, my first coffee painting was actually just for fun. I want to say around 2012, so that's a good 10 years from now. I gave it to a friend of mine, a coworker back in the day, and he still has it, and it still looks exactly the same day as I painted it. So there's 10 years for you with the coffee thing. I don't think that would have been the case with Kool-Aid. Yeah. So you get that on this channel too. Over analyzing things. You get a lot of that on this channel. And then sometimes we just chat about weird stuff like, I don't know. We talk about Bigfoot sometimes, aliens, things like that. It's all in fun. Talk about movies that we watch, TV shows and stuff, which I haven't seen any decent movies in a while, but as soon as I see a good one that I like, I'll let you guys know. Yeah, well, I don't know. You can get like, I don't know if they still call it 2 buck chuck, but like, There's the Bay Bridge wine. I don't know if they have that around where you are. Like we have Kroger's here, and the Bay Bridge is sold in Kroger liquor stores. That's only $3, so you can get a bottle of wine. And then how much wine are you actually using? I don't know. I've seen people do art with wine. Uh, That's all I can say. I don't think it. It depends on what you're trying to do with it. If you're trying to create a picture like this buffalo, I think you're going to struggle. I think you're going to struggle getting those darker values out of it. That said, you can get a lot of the lighter values out of it, and then, if that's the kind of art that you want to create, you can come back with colored pencils or, watercolor or something like that, and try to fill in some of those areas that you weren't able to, some of those tonal values that you weren't able to accomplish with the line alone. It depends on what you were trying to do. Like if you're just wanting to create a picture and say, "Hey, I did that with wine," you could probably do that. You can make that happen. I believe in you, kid. If you want to do that, you can do it. Kid's like, I ain't wasting no wine on freaking art. I'm gonna drink that. That's the other thing. It's like, what are you willing to part with? Like I can part with coffee. I'm not gonna. I drink a lot of bourbon on this show. I don't think I'm gonna try to paint with bourbon. That feels like a waste of bourbon. I really want this beard to be dark, so I'm gonna keep working there. Anyway, I'll probably go ahead and call this done for the night. I'm gonna continue working on it, but um, my dogs are off the bed, which means that they're kind of like, why are you wasting my time, guys? So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm happy with the direction it's going. And then also, like I should point out while I'm on the live stream, there are other things involved. So like if you look at some of my finished paintings, I do add different effects and stuff, and I do this kind of randomly where I add in splotches. That I think that really works well with these wildlife pictures. It kind of gives it a texture, and especially if I load up like some of this darker stuff, and I put in like little tiny splotches and stuff. That kind of stuff creates this really cool texture effect, especially down here where I want it to kind of abstract away. I have this kind of stuff, and it really does. Like I'm not done with it, and some of these splotches and stuff. I may actually. Oh, by the way, you can remove some of these. Like say I don't like that splotch, I can just kind of dab it out. Let me. I can dry my brush and then just kind of like mop it up, right? So you can kind of semi-control how these dots, like that looks like a pimple, right? And it's not going to dry that way. So I could leave that and it'd be fine. But say I wanted to remove that, uh, you know, just kind of dab it away. So you do have some control over the chaos. In fact, if I ever did do a art show with this stuff, and you know, this is like, I need a shop name or something, I would call it, you know, something with chaos in it, but ordered chaos, because you do have some control over it. So we mentioned before that like it needs to be darker around that horn. I agree. Now that it's dried a bit, these upper layers come out more darker, and it'll dry that dark because it's not being absorbed by the paper. That's how it works. And this is how you end up with the finished piece. I really do need to do a live stream where I'm showing you guys more of this detailing than the initial processes. I think that's important. Now, I do like how this is drying. And that's sort of like, that was completely random, right? But it looks like it's part of the natural fur. I love that kind of stuff. It's awesome. Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go and call it. I know I said that multiple times, but this time for reals. Um, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I know that I'm not entitled to you guys showing up every time you guys do. It's a complete surprise to me, but I appreciate it. I really do, because like while I'll sit here and I'll create the art regardless, it is a lot more fun chatting with you guys while I do it, and I have you guys to thank for that. So I do appreciate it. I'm grateful. I feel like people say grateful a lot and they don't mean it. I truly am grateful that you guys are here. So I appreciate it. So anyway, bison, buffalo, whatever you want to call it, early stages, got some more work to do on it. Check the community tab tomorrow to see how it turned out. I've kept you guys for like 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's, usually I try to keep it around 2 hours. Sorry for making it go longer, but this was fun. I feel like we had some good conversations. We had some new people in here, so shout out to Michael. Um, uh, Luke said he was going to show up. He didn't show up. But anyway, if you get a chance to check out his channel, he's a young artist who's making his way in the world and creating some cool art. So be sure to check out his channel. Let me switch to the full picture. Yeah. So, and as always, my co-pilot Bear, she says hi. She's always happy to say hi to you guys. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I hope to see you again. Make sure you subscribe and all that stuff so you get like a notification next time I do it. But for those of you guys who hang out in here often, I appreciate you guys coming back. Again, I'm going to continue working on this tonight, and I just don't want to keep you guys. I know that it is a weeknight. A lot of you guys got to go to work tomorrow or school or whatever. I appreciate that. So anyway, that's it for me. I do ramble on a lot. Sorry about that. See you guys. Bye. Have a good one.